Hi, I'm Bear.
And I'm Butterfly, and today we're going to be telling you a wonderful story.
This story is called The Messiah Among You, adapted from the story of Mr. Francis Dorpham O'Pram, The Rabbi's Gift.
Mr. Cohen was the teacher of the most quarrelsome third grade class you could ever imagine. The kids in the class argued about everything.
They argued about who should stand at the front of the lunch line. They argued about what games they should play during recess. They argued about who was the best reader in the class. And if Mr. Cohen asked them whether it was a sunny day or a rainy day, they even argued about that.
Mr. Cohen was at his wits' end. There was so much arguing going on that no one was learning anything. When they tried to do multiplication problems, Janie and Stan argued about whether 2 times 2 was the same as 2 plus 2 or not. When it was time for spelling, Carmen and Ling began to quibble about who should get the first turn in the spelling bee. In music class, Carlos and Beth each tried to grab the tambourine, and Carlos ended up in the nurse's office when the tambourine hit him on the head.
Mr. Cohen tried everything. He promised the class an ice cream party if they can get through just one day without an argument. No sooner had he made this offer than did Charles and Bobby begin to argue whether they should get chocolate chip ice cream or cookie dough.
Mr. Cohen threatened the kids. He told them that he'd send everyone who was arguing to the principal's office. That didn't work either. The principal, Mrs. Sanchez, pulled Mr. Cohen aside at lunchtime and politely but firmly told him that 15 kids in one morning was quite enough. Thank you. And she hoped to be able to get some work done that afternoon.
Mr. Cohen called parents. He tried very politely asking the kids to stop. He kept the class in at recess. Nothing worked. There was only one thing left to do. Mr. Cohen went to his synagogue on the Sabbath and prayed. His rabbi noticed his look of despair and went to sit by him. The rabbi listened to Mr. Cohen's tale of the most difficult, argumentative third grade class in history.
When she had heard it all, she simply said, "Stay home from work on Monday and leave it to me." That Monday, the kids walked into their classroom and found the rabbi sitting at Mr. Cohen's desk. Of course, they immediately began to argue about whether Mr. Cohen was sick or whether Mrs. Sanchez had finally gotten tired of the steady stream of arguing children that showed up in her office every day and she'd fired him.
The rabbi sat and listened. She didn't yell or try to interrupt them. She didn't plead or scold. She simply sat quietly at Mr. Cohen's desk. After a while, the kids began to wonder what was going on. The arguments gradually died down as the kids watched the rabbi to see what would happen.
Then the whole classroom was finally quiet. The rabbi slowly stood up. "Mr. Cohen will not be here today. I'm your substitute teacher. But I only have one thing to teach you. Listen carefully, for I will not repeat it." The kids were too surprised to argue. The rabbi's voice rang out in the stunned silence. "Last night in my dreams, God told me a Messiah is among you."
They argued. Pandemonium broke out in the classroom as the kids argued about who might the Messiah be. It couldn't be Charles. He was always getting into mischief, but on the other hand, Charles could always be counted on to help a friend or share his lunch. And Ling was clearly too bossy to be a Messiah. But then again, Ling went to church every Sunday and prayed before bed every night. And what about Janie? She always did her work so carefully and neatly.
The arguing didn't stop overnight. When Mr. Cohen returned to school on Tuesday morning, the first thing he heard was Stan's angry voice. "I'm telling you, Carmen, Bobby is the Messiah. Just the other day, I saw him comforting a little first grader who had scraped her knee. Isn't that the sort of thing a Messiah would do?" Soon, however, the arguments began to disappear. When Janie began to argue with Charles that she should be the line leader, she suddenly offered to stand behind him. After all, Charles might be the Messiah.
And in music class, Carlos and Beth took turns using the tambourine. After all, one of them might be the Messiah. After that year, the kids kept trying to figure out who might the Messiah be. They began to think about each other differently. They noticed all the good things about each other. Stan was a great artist with a huge imagination. Ling was passionate and strong. Carmen was the most loyal friend you could ask for. As for Mr. Cohen, he was gentle and kind, and he might as well have been the Messiah.
The kids began to think about themselves differently. Each child wondered, could I be the Messiah? The children were inspired to try to be the best people they could be. Soon the kids in Mr. Cohen's class had a reputation for treating each other well. Teachers came from far and wide to visit the class and asked Mr. Cohen for teaching tips.
The year ended, and the kids from in Mr. Cohen's class graduated having learned the very important lesson they would never forget. Everyone around you is special, and anyone could be a Messiah. Next fall, Mr. Cohen looked at his brand new class of third graders. Already, John and Anna were arguing whether or not crocodiles and alligators were the same. Good morning, children, he began as everyone began to quiet down. Has anyone here heard of a Messiah? He lowered his voice to a whisper so everyone had to be quiet to listen. I heard there's a Messiah in your class.
Do you know what a Messiah is?
I actually don't.
Well, the Messiah is a savior. In the Jewish religion, the Messiah will come someday, and he will help save the world from a terrible evil. Christians used to be Jews a very long time ago, but they think that Jesus was the Messiah and came to carry out his good deeds.
Oh, hey Butterfly. I think all the kids in that story might have been messiahs in that story.
How so?
Well, they all learned how to treat each other well and ended that bad time in their class. The rabbis may have started it, but they were the ones who really caused change.
You're very right there. Sometimes you need someone to start things to make sure that there's going to be changes in the world. That person could be you.
And we see that happening every day.
Yep. Who knows? Maybe one of our friends could cause great change in the world.
That's so awesome.
It would be. Tell us in the comments how you want to make a difference in the world.
We will try to give you resources to help you with the causes you find important.
Goodbye for now, friends.